On today's Andy Ari on 3, Miami coach Mario Cristobal drops by to make his case to the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, which holds Miami's fate in its hands and thus far has not put Miami in a place to make the CFP. Mario Cristobal hoping that changes between now and Sunday. We shall see. Also, it is a pick show. We have the picks for all your conference championship games: Georgia, Alabama in the SEC, Ohio State, Indiana in the Big Ten, Virginia, Duke in the ACC, BYU, Texas Tech in the Big 12, plus what looks like a playoff win and in game in the American between North Texas and Tulane, and one that could get very interesting between Troy and James Madison based on what happens a day later in the ACC championship. We will pick them all on today's edition of Andy and Ari on 3, presented by BetMGM. We are presented by BetMGM. We use BetMGM lines and totals, and you can join us by joining BetMGM. If you have not signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB, as in college football, CFB, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. Download the BetMGM app and sign on using the bonus code CFB. Deposit at least $10 to place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code CFB when you're signing up. So download the app, deposit at least $10, place your first wager, up to $1,500 if your first bet loses. Use the bonus code CFB when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary with BetMGM. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. Call 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3, presented by BetMGM. And it is politicking season, Ari. A lot of coaches have no games this week, but still have desire for the College Football Playoff Selection Committee to pick their team or to place their team in a spot in the rankings that allows them to participate in the College Football Playoff. Today, we're going to be joined by Mario Cristobal, Miami's head coach, because the Canes need help from the committee. They are in a position right now where they're out. They're sitting at number 12 in the College Football Playoff rankings. We will see where they find themselves on Tuesday night when those are revealed. By the way, we'll have a live show Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time to talk about it as they come out. But right now, Miami behind BYU, which is 11-1 and going to play in the Big 12 championship game, behind Alabama, which is also 10-2, behind Notre Dame, also 10-2, that Miami has beaten on the field. Oklahoma, also 10-2. So Miami would like to be considered with that group. So would Vanderbilt. Texas would like to be considered with that group. And we'll find out what the committee thinks of all those teams tomorrow.
You know, Andy, I think that there are a lot of bad faith arguments in the college football playoff discourse. And you'll find a lot of them when you start to see coaches politic, because anybody on any resume, you could take, we could even make a show out of this. Let's take the top 15 teams and pick out the piece of their resume that makes it sound like they deserve it and then present it without having the entire picture. I think we could do it.
Or we can do the reverse of that and just bash a team, be like, oh, this is why they don't deserve it. Yeah, you can do the same thing.
Utah could come up with the metrics that favor them, present those and show them as they can, and leave out the other ones and make it look like Miami's, I think, is as most cut and dried as it could possibly be. It's pretty straightforward. And as Mario Cristobal said on the show, he's not trying to create a narrative. He's just trying to present his facts. Obviously, anybody who listening to this show the past month knows where I stand on it. But I was happy to have him on. And Andy, one other thing that we have to acknowledge before we go to the interview, big conflict tomorrow with the college football playoff rankings release because Netflix is releasing its Diddy documentary, and that's going to be electric too. So watch us first and then watch that, but it's going to be wild.
I mean, if it were Stranger Things was dropped last week, I'd be a little worried. It's just you true crime sickos that are going to be worried about that one.
Yeah, I'm a sports college football sicko, and I'm a true crime sicko.
Yeah, Stranger Things, that was appointment viewing for me, but not this.
Speaking of true crime, let's talk to Mario Cristobal about what's happening.
Oh, wow. You went there. No, listen, I knew you were when we booked this interview, I knew you were going to be excited because you've been banging this drum since the first selection committee ranking. You have not changed. You've been very consistent in your argument. I've been right there with you on the value of head-to-head when the rest of the resume is similar. I feel like they are comparable resumes. So let's talk to Mario Cristobal and let's hear his case for it that he's going to make to us, but he's not really talking to us. He's talking to those 13 people in Grapevine, Texas, college football playoff selection committee. And he's saying, consider this. And I'm curious to see if they will. Here's Mario Cristobal. I want to ask you, Mario, how frustrating is it for you as a coach who's been, and you've been a player, you've been involved in all these big games, that now you are sitting here in a position where there are people meeting in a room in Grapevine, Texas that determine your fate, and all you can do is talk to us?
Well, I feel really good about the fact that we've taken care of our business, that we started the season really, really strong. In fact, that if you watch us, if you look at our schedule before the season started, I don't know how many people would have taken on the task of playing Notre Dame, Florida, Florida State, USF, right, all back to back to back. And when in the middle of the season, when we suffered a loss, we were asked to show consistency. And over the last 4 weeks, you'd be hard pressed to find a team that's playing better offense, defense, and special teams and complementary football than we are. So we've done what we've been asked to do at the highest level, and looking forward to them just sitting down and analyzing all the facts. And we respectively, that's what we can do in the meantime. But we trust that when all the facts are laid out and everything is set on the table, that head-to-head will come into play, because that's what the sport has always been founded on.
I know that you are or were knee deep in coaching and preparing your team to do what you need to do. I don't know, but you're kind of online. Have you witnessed or seen any of my public meltdowns from the past 4 weeks about this?
Now that I know you've had meltdowns, the first thing I'm going to do after this is to have all those things just given to me so I could read them.
I'll text you the headline from Wednesday. I said what the college football playoff committee is doing is the greatest single injustice from a decision that's been made in the history of the playoff. And I'm actually pretty wound up about it. And I'm wondering from your standpoint, when you look at, I'm sure you guys watch the shows, you're aware of what's going on. How are you doing with this?
Well, I mean, I think always, whenever in the middle of the season, you consume yourself, you get lost in coaching, you get lost in teaching technique, fundamental scheme, and making sure that you're being the best mentor, the best teacher you could possibly be for your players. And our players' response and their energy, their level of enthusiasm is off the charts. And I mean, our point differential there down the stretch is about 27, 28 points. And we played our threes at the end of a lot of these games as well, which, made it a little bit closer than it should have been. So our quarterback's really hot. Our Malachi Tony's playing as good as any player in the country. Our trenches, I think they showed on Saturday the wide gap between us and a lot of other teams out there. And we feel like we're just getting started. So we're getting hot at the right time. And so I've been consumed with that. In terms of the other stuff, I mean, that's what sets in now, the tiebreakers that come with conference play. I mean, that's hard to figure out, man. You don't get salty about it. At the end of the day, for whatever reason, that's the way that things played out and worked out. Does it seem I don't know what to say about it. I really don't. I don't want to sound I want to congratulate the two teams that are playing, because As a guy that played football, you always, at the end of the day, find a way to do that, things with class. Do you feel like things can be better going forward? Absolutely.
How hard is it, though, when you see the rankings and you see that you guys are below Notre Dame? Obviously, with BYU, there's not much. There are no common opponents. There's no game that was played. But when you see where you are relative to Notre Dame, what do you feel?
Well, I mean, again, head to head, right? I mean, where is that not at the top of the food chain as it relates to comparing two teams, right? Where is common opponents? Not something that's secondary to what's at the top of the food chain, right? We've had a common opponent with number 10, Alabama, right, and Florida State, which I know they played in week 1, which was a very convincing, great victory by Florida State, and we had a chance to play them as well. You look at the metrics of our offensive, defensive systems, and some of the other guys that are ranked in certain spots, like right now, every metric imaginable, we're a top 10 team, and in some instances 7, 6, 5, 4. So we have done what we are supposed to do, and on top of that, at the end, when it comes down to things that are being compared, you always wish that you had a head-to-head to evaluate, and in this case, we do, which we certainly feel strongly about, and hopefully that's something that's viewed very strongly and very carefully, very meticulously as decisions are made.
How do you address your team about this?
Honestly, we just had a great team meeting and went over the game. It was we had some great physical moments in this game. We started the game off with a sack, so you can imagine when you see one of the big old 300-pounders get a sack, watch the TV copies going nuts, dancing, coaches on the side going bananas. That led to a 20, 25 minutes assessment, recap of the game, players of the game, and then what do we do from here? What's the plan going forward? Well, it starts with strength and conditioning, right, throughout the course of the week, making sure that we stay in good shape, making sure that our technique and fundamentals are sharp. And in the meantime, we wait until things are finalized, things settle down or get settled up on Sunday. So in the meantime, that's it, focus on our next 1-0 opportunity, which we feel very confidently and very strongly about our position as it relates to the college football playoff.
So last year, Mario, you guys didn't make the playoff because you lost 2 games in November.
Mm-hmm.
This year, you go undefeated in November. What happened after the SMU loss? How did this team come together? Because at that point, you could have bagged it, mm-hmm. and they didn't. They seemed to get better as the month went on.
Right.
What changed?
Well, I think the best part is we acknowledge things that we have to do better. And what we didn't do, we had, by the end of that game, I believe we had 6 or 7 starters, like frontline, big-time dudes, O.J. Frederick, Ahmad Bowden, Mesidor could hardly get through the game. Wesley Bassane was out. C.J. Daniels was out. Mark Fletcher was out. And nobody made that excuse. And I know that's part of CFP criteria, but no one leaned on that. Instead, a decision was made. We're going to put together an epic November for the University of Miami. We're going to kill the narratives of the past several years about, cold weather, the month of November, and we're just going to get stronger. We're going to get better. And that's what our guys did. And if you look at the metrics of our last 4 weeks, brother, they are as strong and as powerful and as convincing as anything there is out there in the country. Our guys are hot right now. They're enjoying the physicality, the results of their strength and conditioning that the effort that they put into in the summertime. They're hitting on all cylinders at the right time, knowing that we have an opportunity to extend our season and play for the whole thing.
I will raise my hand here. The cold weather thing, I bought it. I mentioned the weather in Pittsburgh on every show last week. I thought they might cover the spread. I grew up in Florida. I hate the cold. I'm like, these guys from Florida, they're not going to be able to handle it. They did. How? What changed?
I mean, number one, we put it at the forefront. When you challenge someone, right, when you truly go right at them and let them know, hey, man, they say the Canes can't play in cold weather. It's going to be 35 degrees, right? They took it personally. Now they weren't fixing to run out there shirtless, right? And,
I knew it was coming.
That wasn't going to happen, but they certainly weren't going to make it a focal point. They were going to make it all about just playing Miami. We have a saying that I can't say it here, but they wanted to focus on playing that brand of football. And that's all they did. I mean, look, the quarterback, the way he's playing, the defense, which has been a top 5 to top 10 unit the entire year and has gotten even better. And we're getting healthy now. We actually got David Blay back now, OJ Frederic back now. Wesley's back healthy. Ruben is now full throttle again. So is Mesidor. Plus all those offensive guys getting healthy. Our guys know that, heck, we just played really well, but our best is coming. So we were a top 2 team in those first 5.5 weeks. Well, we're playing better football now in these last 4 weeks than we did in the first 5 weeks. And that's something that I feel I have conviction that the committee will see that as they sit there and watch the tape, actually watch the games, look at the metrics, look at our hit percentage on our possessions offensively, and then the same thing on defense, our stops. Like the rates that we're doing that at is again, it's a top 5 operation.
I don't know if you know this, but I live about 35 minutes away from where they meet. So if you want, you can come pick me up in a classic car. We can go bang some doors down together. Mario, I do have to ask this question, and it's probably not something that you want to think about, but if the event happens where it doesn't go your way, how do you maintain enthusiasm, excitement, progress, momentum in the program build and not let it turn into a year-over-year thing? Because it's happened recently. You have to acknowledge that what happened to Florida State 2 years ago was really, really bad, and they have taken step back as a program as a result of it. Like, how do you maintain that momentum and positive thinking?
They were one of the best teams in the country, a couple of years ago. And when that happened, it can go one of 2 ways. And I think last year was a really good, that's a good learning lesson for everybody from a really good program with really good coaches. And last year, when we learned that lesson, we had a choice, right? You could go one way or the other and call it what it is. We lost arguably the best player in the country, right? But we actually got better this year, have a better team, and our recruiting improved. We have an even better class coming in this year. So the whole model that we brought here was one of not only sustainability, but one that gets better each and every year. There's always going to be some type of progress. And so that's something that we attack. If it comes to that, I feel strongly about our case. And it's not because we're creating narrative. We're just presenting facts. We played each other. We played the same teams, and we did a better job. And now we respectfully got to present the information. So I certainly don't want to come across, a certain kind of way. I don't want to. I just want to make sure that it's.
You can't be angry though.
Well,
I'm not on your team, and I'm angry about it.
I just think the whole country that has either had a chance to watch us play, who doesn't want to see Carson Beck, Malachi Tony, Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, Bryce Fitzgerald, the way he's playing? There can't be a better safety in the country, a freshman, than him. The way our linebackers are running around striking people, our backs, our trenches. Come on, brother. That's a real deal playoff team that not only qualifies for the playoff, but is built to make a legitimate run at the whole thing. No guarantees ever. All those teams are good. All good teams, great coaches. But look at Miami, top to bottom. Examine the metrics, examine the wins and losses and how they were played out. And you know what? When we did stumble, one play, right? Well, we were in control of the game, right? It wasn't like we were reaching and trying. We have the ball, right? So it's a little bit different than some of the other metrics and some of the other situations with other teams as it relates to both common opponents and head-to-head.
Mario, you've made the case. We'll see if the folks in Grapevine agree with you. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you guys, man. Go Canes.
Appreciate you, Mario.
Okay.
All right. That is Mario Cristobal. We hear he's getting a sweet new ride.
Yeah. Long body 1977 Cadillac convertible with white wall tires.
I think it's 67. It's a boat. I looked it up.
67? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, back in the day, like, were parking spots longer because cars used to be like ships, man.
Oh yeah.
And I know you have a Lyft 150, so like you probably live with that every day, but like everybody's car was like twice as long as it is now.
If you're cruising through Coconut Grove in that sucker, not easy to parallel park, but everybody is going to be watching you. That's one of those, like, you pick up the recruit in that car and you take him.
Yeah, he's a 19
for a drive.
Cadillac Fleetwood, I believe, or Coupe de Ville. I don't know which one it is.
Probably Coupe de Ville.
But yeah, that car, I don't even know if I could throw a football from the hood to the trunk of that thing. Like, it's pretty long. But here's the thing with Miami before we head into the picks, Andy, that I think is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as we've been engaging in the discourse about Miami for the past month, there was a part of all of us that felt, November Miami is going to show up. They'll blow a game and it won't matter. And they ended up winning and playing impressive football for the entire month and now have put the committee back into a bind because there's going to be no easy decision. If they would have lost, then Notre Dame rightfully would be where there would be no discussion. Notre Dame, you put them in, cut and dry, no problem. But now that you have this hanging over your head, I think it makes what happens on Tuesday more exciting to see. I think what happens on Sunday is going to be more exciting. And I think that this Tuesday, though, we have to point out is probably going to be the final straw of it because these two teams don't play, Miami and Notre Dame. Their seasons are done. They're complete. If Notre Dame is ranked ahead of Miami on Tuesday, nothing can happen in the world that changes that because there's no new information being presented. So Tuesday night's a big ranking for Miami.
You say that, but I always go back to that 2014 ranking. Now, 2014 was different because the Big 12 didn't have a championship game at the time, but they played regular season games on the Saturday that the other conferences played championship games. So you did have TCU and Baylor in action because they were in the same boat where they had the same record. They had played and Baylor had won. The committee had TCU above Baylor every week.
I know, but neither team went to the playoff.
But there's a 14 playoff. They would have both made the 12 team. I'm just talking about the head-to-head situation. And they only didn't make it because Ohio State jumped them at the end. But the point of this story, in the last ranking, they flipped them and then said, Baylor beat them. So we made them, we ranked them higher.
That's a fact. That's true. I wonder, we have never gotten a similar situation to that actually impacted who went and who didn't, though.
No, and we're probably going to get more of them because there'll be more teams on the bubble in a 12 team, or if there's a 16 team in the future, we'll get more of that.
Yeah, and if that happens, that's just an admission that they were wrong the whole time. But if they come to those senses, then like here, let me ask you this: do you think that the College Football Playoff Committee's discourse alters the week it's the final one? Like, do you think that there's like, okay, we have to get this one right in a way that they don't deliberate before? Or do you think that like every single time they release a rankings, they're like, this is ironclad in our minds?
They claim they start with a clean sheet of paper every time. They've always claimed that. So we can take them at face value or not.
But do you think that the rankings will, or the way that people argue, or the way that the rankings will play out at the end, it's impacted by this is the last one? Do you think people change their viewpoint?
Should be. Well, it should be the only one, but they want to have a TV show. And as someone who creates shows, I guess I appreciate them giving me something to talk about. But there should only be one of these. So the fact that they've done this all, like I don't know if it does or not. But yes, there should be a little more.
The finality of it, the finality of it should create more level-headed thinking.
We'll see. We will see what they do. Yeah. I'm very interested to see how they order these teams because it does affect what happens. It's obviously not final because if Alabama and BYU win on Saturday, they are in, no questions asked. And I think that's a much more interesting part of this. So we'll see how that goes. We've got to pick those games, those Saturday games that will decide whether they're automatically in or whether somebody else is. But we're going to pick 7 championship games. Sorry.
Yep.
6 of them could impact college football playoff spots, seeding, you name it. One of them won't, but it's just going to be a fun game. The records. I had a terrible week last week. I was 3-7. Ari was 7-3. This is the first week. Last week was the first week this season that Ari had a better record than me for the week, and he dominated me. Dominated. Now it's a record.
But I actually felt terrible about my picks going into it because you were right. I picked a bunch of favorites, and most of the favorites ended up winning.
Yeah, you picked a lot of road favorites, which was it's usually a dangerous situation. But yeah, you came out on top. The Overall records: 68, 59, and 3 for me, 52, 76, and 2 for Ari.
I think
I am still comfortably ahead. You stand no chance of catching me.
Am I mathematically boxed out now? Like, are we going to pick enough games between now and the end of the year for me to maybe catch you?
There are not enough games for you to catch me.
Come on, let's pick some. Let's pick some basketball tonight.
There's 16 games. Well, actually, wait. There's 16 games, so we're gonna pick 7 right now. And the college football play. We could pick some bowls. We could pick a bunch of bowls if we want to give you a shot.
Well, the thing too is that
those are complete crapshoots.
We're also not going to be on the opposite side of enough games for me to even have a chance because we agree sometimes.
Yeah. Right. So, there are going to be some that are obvious, and you can't just go the opposite of me because then you'd be wrong. So
you know what? Yeah. I want to congratulate you, man. It was a good year for you, and it was well deserved.
It'll never happen again. So I'm enjoying it.
I do want you to finish above 500, though. I'm actually rooting for you because we can't let it slip away. You had a really good year.
No, I got to lock in here. I can't have another week like last week. Ari, before we get started picking games, there is news happening as we record this show. Bob Chesney, the James Madison coach, is headed to UCLA. Now, Bob Chesney, as we'll discuss in a second, is not out of the playoff hunt at James Madison. James Madison will allow him to coach in the playoff if he makes it. UCLA will allow him to coach in the playoff if he makes it. That also means that Bob Chesney is not getting the Penn State job because he was one person I thought Penn State might be targeting. And the fact that Penn State has not announced a hire yet suggests that maybe it's somebody who's participating in a conference championship game this weekend. So still waiting on that.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of coaches participating in a conference championship game who may be in line for other jobs, our Pete Nakos reported a couple names for Kentucky. Will Stein, Oregon offensive coordinator. Brian Hartline, Ohio State offensive coordinator. We talked about them on the show last night, both of them as potential candidates for Kentucky. Will Stein, former Louisville quarterback, so native of the state, I believe has members of the family who played at Kentucky. Brian Hartline definitely has a member of the family who played at Kentucky. His brother Mike was a really good player for Kentucky and was on Mark Stoops' staff at Kentucky. So,
I have a theory that Kentucky actually it was more advantageous for Kentucky to lose to Louisville the way they did in the final week of the season to create a scenario where they were willing to pay the buyout, which then allowed them to miss all of the dominoes and the crazy Lane Kiffin mania, and then puts them in a position where they can only hire these two great coordinators. Or what if tinfoil hat Ari pops out and says, one of these two guys ends up coming to you? It would be a home run for them. I feel like whoever gets Will Stein is going to be like, oh my God, thank God. Right? I feel that way. I think Brian Hartline has a chance to do that too. I think if I were Kentucky, I'd be fired up about this tweet. I'd be fired up about this news. No?
I would too, because we said this on the show. Why is everybody ignoring coordinators when history says you have just as good of a chance hiring a good coordinator as you do hiring a sitting head coach?
Yeah.
So if Kentucky ends up deciding between a couple of really good coordinators, then great. Good for them.
Love it.
Also, probably a little easier. Now, given the market the way it is, you're still probably going to get leveraged pretty hard by these guys just because they've got really good jobs right now. But you're still probably not going to have to pay as much as you would have. Florida was hiring John Sumrall, who, by the way, former Kentucky player John Sumrall. Florida was hiring him, and Auburn was interested, and Arkansas was interested, and Ole Miss might have been interested. So, it was a different level of leverage than these guys might have. So yeah. Kentucky may get a relative bargain for someone with just as good of a chance of success.
Right. I'm with you. And I think a lot of these hires too, where they go is going to predicate, their success will be predicated on where they go. But some people will be able to transcend it. And I think at Kentucky, you have a chance if you get the right guy to do some special stuff. Mark Stoops has done it. It's been done. So we'll see.
We shall find out. Now, let's pick some games. We're going to start with Sun Belt Championship. I just mentioned that Bob Chesney of James Madison is heading to UCLA to become their new head coach, but he's still coaching the Dukes in this game, and he might still be coaching the Dukes further on down the line. So here's what happens. Troy is playing at James Madison. This is one of those where they play at the home site. James Madison is a 22.5 point favorite in this game. If James Madison wins, they will wait and watch the ACC championship game with great interest. Because if Duke beats Virginia in the ACC championship game, there is a high likelihood that a 12-1, a 12-1 James Madison that won the Sun Belt would be ranked higher than an 8-5 Duke that won the ACC. Which, if that happens, Bob Chesney and the Dukes are going to the playoff.
Yeah. If you're the Sun Belt, Andy, do you start the Dukes over Duke promo now, or do you wait, or do you have to wait?
Dukes for Duke. You got to root for Duke first, then you root against them for a few hours.
Dukes for Duke this week, and then Dukes over Duke.
Like every JMU defender, like when they take the field for the first play, should slap the field. I realize that's a Duke basketball thing, but do you know any Duke football things?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. I want to see that. Like, I want to see the James Madison Dukes, the defense, when they get out on the field for the first play from scrimmage, slap the field. Everybody, all 11 guys.
Yeah.
Just a nod to Coach K.
You know, if you want to pull out some metrics too, being a 22.5 point favorite in your conference championship game is a pretty strong indication that maybe you're
People
not
feel pretty good about you.
Yeah. I'm going to lay the points, Andy. I think they're going to come out humming, and I'm all for every single alternate discussion line that we can have going into Sunday in Nashville. I think is a positive.
I think that could be fun. And, you know, we're working on getting Manny Diaz on the show later in the week, the Duke coach. And I want to ask him how it feels, because I think part of the country, like his conference office is probably rooting against him, but the rest of the country that loves chaos is probably rooting for Duke, including James Madison.
Yeah. Also, I would love to hear his pitch for why Duke should not get passed by James Madison, right? Like I'm
sure he's going to give it. It's going to be like Mario. You know, he's presenting his case for Miami. Manny will present his case for Duke. Bob Chesney, I'm sure, will present his case for James Madison. Like that's the on-field 50-yard line interview. If JMU wins this game, and look, I'm going to take the point. That's a lot of points. It's 3 touchdowns.
That's a lot of points.
I don't know what to do with that. Let me think this through while I describe what this interview is going to be like. You know, Bob Chesney is going to get an interview at the 50-yard line because, one, whether Troy covers or not, I think James Madison's winning this game. So if James Madison wins, Bob Chesney goes to the 50-yard line, and just that's your moment. Like, everybody's watching. Here's why this team needs to be in the playoff. I'm looking through.
Yeah, I mean, while you're looking
I'm going to take James Madison to cover too. I think Chesney's going to have him ready to go, and they're going to try to make an emphatic point in this game.
I mean, they have to. Like, they have to make a point. I think they know they have to make a point. And I am amused that JMU is favored by twice as much over Troy as Clemson beat Troy by at home. Clemson beat Troy 27-16 in the second week of the season. 11 points, 11 times 22. Good at math. Here we go. But Troy's a pretty good team. So, like, it's not like they're just going over a team that they can just name their score on. I think if they're able to cover the spread, that would be a statement in and of itself. So, yeah, I'm going to go with JMU. Although you also, too, could be, well, is he distracted? You know, you can start playing that whole game, too, of, like, is the team upset? Like, but I think that in this type of level, that this is more expected than it was for, say, Ole Miss. So, Ole Miss covered their spread pretty easily in their last game. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with JMU to make a statement, and hopefully it creates more chaotic scenarios that we have to go through when we're doing our shows over the weekend.
Yeah. All right, Ari. If you would like to attend any of these conference championship games we're talking about, the Big Ten is probably the one that everybody wants to go to. That would be Ohio State and Indiana, undefeated, both teams. in Indianapolis. Obviously, hot ticket because the Hoosiers have never played in this game before. It's right down the road from Bloomington. Obviously, many of their graduates live in Indianapolis. It is a tough ticket. High 300s is the lowest price. You can get really good seats in the thousands, but this is a big deal for everybody. It's going to be a packed stadium. And if you want to get in there, you can get your tickets on GameTime. Download the GameTime app. Redeem the code STAPLES for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, of course. They have tickets to all of these, though. We've talked about the importance of the championship games and would Georgia want to play in the SEC championship game? Well, guess what? Georgia and Alabama fans want to go to the SEC championship game because the cheapest ticket is in the 200s, and it goes up from there.
Yeah.
So you can get in to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and watch those two teams play in Atlanta on GameTime. Download the app, redeem the code STAPLES, get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And remember, the price you see is the price you pay. No stupid fees tacked on at the end. GameTime's not going to do that to you. Go to GameTime. Swipe, tap, ticket, go from GameTime. Ari, let us talk about the Mountain West. Crazy situation with the Mountain West in terms of picking the teams. Our friend Bill Connolly from ESPN, they used his SP Plus ranking to pick the teams. And I would not want to be responsible for any. And Bill doesn't, like, Bill just makes the formula. And it's not like he tweaked the formula this week. He just makes the formula, and whatever happens, happens. But I wouldn't want the pressure of my thing deciding wild, which teams played. Yeah.
But also good for Bill, right? He's smart.
He's very smart.
So, yeah, I think we need to have an off-season discussion about how to properly do this. Because if we're going to live in a world with, tiebreakers coming into play in every single scenario because of the sizes of the conferences and all these things, I think that we should all have like a uniform tiebreaker scenario.
Yeah.
Like,
so here's what they use. It's a composite average of different metrics. So SP Plus, Bill's ranking, ESPN strength of record, the KPI, and the Sports Source analytics ranking. So that's what they used. And that put Boise State and UNLV in the game and knocked New Mexico and San Diego State out of the game. So just very interesting, but I'm with you. Now, the Mountain West did this for a reason. The conference we're going to talk about after this one, the American, had a similar method, a couple different methods, where if you're in the group of five, your goal, because you're actually usually competing against all the other group of five leagues and their champions, you just want to have the highest ranked champion of that bunch. So you've got to set your championship game up so that the two teams in it are the most likely.
And I think the way that you do it, I like the Americans' thought process. I think the way to do it, to me, would just be to default to overall record. Like the ACC's tiebreaker should just be overall record first, because your overall record, as good as it is, should also correlate with your candidacy for the playoff.
But that also encourages you not to schedule hard in the non-conference.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
I mean, Clemson's going to be like, "Why we have to schedule South Carolina every year, or the state legislature will get after our asses. So what are we supposed to do about that?" So I don't think you can do that. But
I mean, in the argument for college football playoff candidacy, those two things are typically pretty similar.
It makes more sense for sure. Yeah. If there were centralized college scheduling, you could probably do something like that, but it's not going to work right now. All right, UNLV is playing Boise State. Boise State is a 3.5-point favorite. This is on the blue. The Fighting Dan Mullins against the Fighting Spencer Danielsons. This has not been a typical Boise State season. And started them getting their doors blown off at USF. They are here though, which, for a while it didn't seem like they were going to be able to get here. And so a resilient team, kind of similar to where a couple of years ago when Spencer Danielson took over as the head coach midstream when they fired Andy Avalos and then led them to a conference title. That's kind of what this feels like. They lost consecutive games to Fresno State and San Diego State, closed with wins against Colorado State and Utah State. The Utah State one was a wild game. Can Boise State do this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that reps in this area is usually what kind of, is a good indication of like what could happen next, right? Like teams that are in this situation continually and are successful in this continually are typically the ones that prevail. Now, I think that it would be hard to go through this breakdown without also tipping our cap to Dan Mullen. Like if you remember the way that UNLV played at the beginning of the year, it looked like you put together a team by duct taping everything back together because they had all these.
We're talking about the Idaho State game that they opened with,
yeah.
And then then they were winning in some wild ways early,
yeah. And somebody like tweeted at the beginning of the year, and it made me laugh out loud. He goes, "This is the most NIL ass team I've ever seen in my entire life because everybody came transfer portal ass team I've ever seen," and like they have molded those guys into a functional, really good team. And, Dan Mullen, as you pointed out on our Sunday night bonus show, I think would be a very good candidate for one of the middle tier jobs.
Like Kentucky that just opened. If Michigan State didn't consider him because they just went right to Pat Fitzgerald, but that would have been the type of job that I would have certainly considered him for.
You got a front row seat. He's a really good coach. I mean, you watched.
Great developer, great game day coach. The only issue at Florida was he didn't want to recruit to the level that it's required to win national championships. Like you have to be willing to fight Kirby Smart in recruiting, and he wasn't. But that's not an issue at these other schools. Like I'll take the great game day coach and the great developer at those other schools. So he's done a great job here. They had 2 losses in the middle of the season back to back, where they lost to Boise State and they lost to New Mexico. Also, Boise 2 teams at the top of the league. Boise State beat them 56-31. So if you're talking about this scenario, that was on the blue, just like this one will be. This is why Boise State's favored in this game. Because if you look at the seasons the 2 teams had, you'd feel like it's fairly evenly matched. But I think the reason they're giving the nod and a home game, that's usually 3 points. Vegas is looking at this like a pick 'em,
which is interesting because the first time they played, UNLV got their ass kicked. So you subscribe to the notion of it's hard to beat the same team twice. We talk about this every year when there's rematches. I think that it is.
This is also the 3rd time in a row these teams have played in this game. Now, obviously, the Barry Odom UNLV teams were different. He leaves. Dan Mullen had to redo the roster, but there are players at UNLV who've had this experience before, and obviously a lot of players at Boise State who have.
Yeah, I just have a hard time. I think the line is suspiciously small, to be honest. I would have thought it would have been a touchdown or 7.5 or something, considering the first meeting between the 2 teams. But UNLV has won 4 games in a row, and all but one were blowouts. So I'm going to lay the points, though, Andy. I'm just. I think I've seen this game once before. I don't know if it's going to be a 26-point different scenario this time.
Madison was throwing darts.
Yeah.
In that first meeting, he averaged 11 yards per attempt through 4 TD passes. Though Anthony Calandria, if you've watched him at UNLV and if you watched him at Virginia, he's a lot of fun. A lot can happen, and sometimes it's fun. He's always fun to watch, especially if you don't have a rooting interest.
It's just the Cavaliers gear, man.
Maybe not as much fun if you're his coach all the time, because there's a lot of yes, no, yes. But I'm telling you, this is going to be fun to watch. I am going to take UNLV to cover here.
Interesting.
Dan Mullen gets them ready. Give me the Rebels.
Interesting. Yeah.
Give me the Rebels.
I mean, you probably be right here because the line is suspiciously small. So maybe you're smelling the stink of the line.
Do I smell it? Well, and the other thing we've wondered openly, because all these jobs are open. Spencer Danielson and Dan Mullen would be people you'd consider for a lot of these jobs. So, like, are they involved? We've not heard anything specific, but you do wonder about that too. But I think Spencer Danielson, obviously very experienced in games like this, but Dan Mullen's coached a bunch of big games. Like it's not new to him. So yeah, give me the Rebels. Let us move on to the Americans. So this game's also Friday night. North Texas at Tulane. Tulane is the only Group of 5 team currently ranked in the CFP rankings, but is an underdog at home to the Mean Green. Mean Green 1 loss. That was to USF at home on a Friday night. That was a mauling. It was about a it felt like there was about an 8-minute period where USF just blew that game open.
It was like,
Texas has not played like that any other time.
It was a tornado. And maybe it was just kind of one of those deals where it's like it felt like the talent was separating from itself, but maybe it was just like bad things compounding, and it just like was one of those nights. I don't know. Tulane being a home dog is an interesting dynamic for sure. Like Mestamaker's throwing darts all over the place. He'll be one of the most coveted quarterback prospects in the entire portal when it opens. You know, you can make an educated guess maybe on where he might wind up, but maybe he'll wind up somewhere even bigger.
He's going to wind up at Oklahoma State with Eric Morris.
Yeah,
that's my guess.
You know, that would be my guess too. But I also think that he had played well enough for a big time SEC Big Ten type person to come in and bid pretty high to get him too. Like that could happen, right?
That definitely could happen. The question is, how's he going to do against this Tulane defense? Which, look, they shut out Charlotte, but that's not really saying much. Charlotte was 1-10 coming into that game. They've had games where they've given up points. Now that Memphis game was pretty crazy. The UTSA game is the one that sticks out. Like both of these teams have that one game. For Tulane, it's that UTSA game. Like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
How did you just go get dominated? And then UTSA did that to East Carolina too, which none of it makes sense. But the other loss that Tulane has is to Ole Miss, which, by the way, is the team, the winner of this might play in the college football playoff if the rankings, depending on how the rankings shake out. But I don't know if this Tulane defense is quite good enough. Obviously, both of these coaches have other jobs now and are currently working. Like, as we record this, I'm going to drive over to Florida's campus and see John Sumrall's introductory press conference a few hours from now. He's coaching this team Friday in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Morris already introduced his Oklahoma State's coach. He's coaching this game, but he's also working for Oklahoma State. I think that adds another layer of intrigue to this. Now, this is not a Lane Kiffin situation. Both of these coaches, whoever wins, they'll be allowed to coach this team in the playoff. Their school has already said that. So that's not the issue. But how much of the other job for both guys become? That's why this game, it's a small spread anyway, is almost impossible to predict.
I know. So which way are you leaning?
I mean, Sumrall's been in this situation quite a bit. He was Troy's head coach for 2 years. They won the Sun Belt both years. He made it to the conference championship game last year in the American, but they lost to Army. But he's been in this deal, so understands the rhythm of it, how this stuff works. Now, again, him being introduced at Florida changes that quite a bit. But Morris is dealing with the same pressures on that side because he's already Oklahoma State's coach. So, you know what? If you're going to give me some points, give me the green wave at home.
Yeah. As much as I want to catch you in the rankings here of the total record, I think in a game that I'm uncertain of, I'll take the points and hope for the best.
Because that's the thing. The fact that these two guys have been hired somewhere else and are already recruiting for those schools. Remember, they have signing day for those schools on Wednesday. So they've got to get that straightened out. There is work to be done for them, for their new schools. That's pretty heavy duty this week. And they're also coaching this game. So yeah, it's completely unpredictable. So you default to taking the points.
Yep.
Let us move on to the Big 12 championship game. This is the one pure bid thief game based on the rankings as they are now. Now, that could change Tuesday if the committee were to reevaluate BYU and move them up. I don't think they're going to move them up past Alabama. Right now, Alabama's 10, BYU's 11. 10's the cut line. 10's the last at-large spot. BYU is guaranteed to get in if they win this game. The winner of the Big 12 will be one of the 5 highest-ranked conference champs. Texas Tech's getting a bye if they win this game.
Mm-hmm.
So there's your stakes right there. Texas Tech is a 13.5-point favorite.
Although, it would be really great. I think if I could pick one site for a home playoff game this year, I think Lubbock would be the one that I would want to go to the most. If you could look at all those teams, because it would just be a pretty great atmosphere.
Well, I tell you what, Ari, if BYU wins, I think they're getting a game in Provo.
Well,
don't think they're going on the road.
You know what my bucket list is?
Mm-hmm. Oh, we're going to pro. Like, if they put that game on Friday night, we're definitely going. If it's on Saturday, we're not sure. But Salt Lake's an easy airport to get in and out of.
You know what's funny is that I am going to be spending the Christmas holiday a few days in Salt Lake, Park City area, and it would be great to just pop up from there. They got pizza buffets. You know, I don't know. Are you telling me I should be rooting for BYU just to make my life easier?
I'm telling you, if BYU wins this game, I think there's a really good chance they get a home game in Provo. And
here's the problem, though, Andy. They're not going to win.
You watched the first Texas Tech BYU game? That's the problem?
Yeah. That I think that BYU is a very good team, and I think that there is a case to be made. I see a lot of Cougars fans online griping about their mistreatment in the playoff selection process, and I think that based on their perspective that there are arguments to be made. That said, the one time BYU played a team this year that I believe is athletically built to compete at this level, they got systematically dominated. And I think it's kind of hard to not consider that, because when you're playing in a conference that's not viewed as an equal as the other ones, fair or not, you can't not show up in your biggest game of the year the way they did. I think that if there is a chance for the Big 12 to get 2 teams in, obviously I think BYU has to win. But if BYU loses by 3 and plays toe-to-toe with Texas Tech, who, you know, athletically I do think is equipped, maybe there's a chance that could happen. But I think that Texas Tech is going to dominate the game because they're just bigger.
BYU's defense has got to force turnovers, and they sacked the hell out of Baron Morton early in that game, and it didn't help because BYU's offense, which has been very effective against everybody else, even games where BYU hasn't been great, like the Utah game, which is against a super physical, good defense, they put up 24 points. They put up 44 against TCU, 41 against UCF. You know, they had 26 against Cincinnati, but again, that's a good defense. They were helpless against Texas Tech. They scored a sad touchdown near the end. Mm-hmm. They looked absolutely helpless against that level of athlete. And that's probably why they're being dragged down in the CFP rankings, because that's the level of athlete you'd play against some of these other teams.
And Texas Tech might not have the same level of athlete as Georgia. Like, this is like Texas Tech is really, really good. They've got a lot of really good players. They've got one of the best defensive players in the country. I'm not trying to take anything away from
Bailey, and Jacob Rodriguez too, but yeah.
But if you took Texas Tech's roster from player 1 to player 85, like, it doesn't compare yet. They've only done this for 1 year. It doesn't compare yet to Georgia.
To Ohio State, to Oregon. Yeah.
You can't stay on the same field with your conference champion or conference elite team that's trying to win the championship this week. Then what does that say about your ability to play Oregon? Like, and I think that is why they have been ranked where they're ranked. And frankly speaking, being number 11 is a pretty solid spot for them to be in, considering the way that game went. I actually think that they should be, you know, pretty pleased with this. But the best part about this BYU is if you believe that you're being mistreated, and that's certainly your prerogative, you control your own destiny here. You have a
win the game. That's it. That's all you got to do.
Playoff. It shouldn't feel so impossible to win this game. In fact, you should win it if you think you belong.
Yep. If you belong, you will win it. That's really all there is to it. If you belong, you'll win this game.
I'm going to lay the points.
If you can only muster one sad touchdown again, you're not going to win this game. And
Texas Tech is awesome, Andy.
Texas Tech's defense is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I will also take Texas Tech to cover. We're not trying to agree on everything. It's just
it doesn't matter anymore. I took the L. Got to run 5 miles.
This one, we were going to agree on. Because, again, I would say almost everybody who watched the first game is going to feel the same way about this.
Yeah.
It's going to take a radically different performance from both teams to change the outcome here.
Yep.
Let's move to Atlanta. We had this discussion. It wasn't even really a debate because neither of us could control the outcome, and neither Georgia nor Alabama could control any of the outcomes here. Georgia especially was out of control. They just were sitting back playing. Well, they were playing Georgia Tech, which is a non-conference game. So they had no control over what happened in the rest of the SEC. And Texas A&M losing to Texas put them in the SEC championship game, which I don't know if they, Kirby Smart says all the right things. He's like, hey, we're not running for anything. We love to win championships. We'll play good teams. Don't care. They lost their starting center last week. I'm sure they would have loved to have the extra week to get healthy. But now they have a chance to win a conference championship. You're damn right they're going to go try to win it. They are favored by 2.5 against Alabama, which beat Georgia in Athens earlier this season. This game in Athens was really good. It was really close. Got very defensive in the second half. Georgia dropped a touchdown pass that would have won the game. That's how tight it was. I'm excited to see these guys play again because I want to see what Georgia and Alabama, like, what are the differences? How much of that game was just that one game? Because what we saw out of Georgia and Alabama most recently, Georgia versus Georgia Tech, Alabama versus Auburn, didn't look great.
No.
Didn't look great, but we've seen them in other parts of the season where they looked virtually unstoppable. So which version do we get on Saturday?
Yeah, Alabama, I thought. Is this a fair statement? Alabama was on the ropes for 2.5 quarters in that game.
Listen, if Auburn hadn't just coated the ball in Vaseline before every play, at least I think that's what they did.
Would have been Crisco.
Yeah, Auburn would have won that game. So Alabama, now Ty Simpson showed up just as he has all season. When you needed him on 3rd and 4th down, he made it happen. And I appreciate that. And that's why it's hard to pick against Alabama, knowing that he's there and can do that. But I will say, Gunnar Stockton, as the season moved on, looked pretty great. But how's Georgia's offensive line going to hold up? They are very banged up.
You want a viral moment or a clippable thing?
Go for it.
I don't know who's going to win this game on Saturday, but I would be fairly certain that neither of these teams is going to win the national title this year.
I don't think that's a hot take. I think most people who've watched them play would feel that way because they've been inconsistent. And to win this, you've got to win 3 or 4 games in a row against really good teams.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the point, because I think this is about as even of a matchup as you could possibly get. And I am amused by the fact that we had this long, windy road of SEC stories and teams popping up and new players and new places, and we just wound up at the same place that we're always at, which is Alabama, Georgia, in the SEC title game.
Yeah,
I think it would have been cool to see A&M or a new team try to do something, but that's just the model of consistency of what makes these programs great. And even in years where they probably would be the first to tell you that they don't have their best stuff, they're both here. So I think both teams have warts. I think both teams have looked awesome at times. I think both teams have looked weak at times. Which one shows up for which team? I hope both show up. And if both show up, who wins? I don't know. Give me the points.
So you will take the Alabama Crimson Tide.
It's not like Georgia Tech lit the world on fire. I mean, Georgia lit the world on fire against Tech on Friday. Like
they
everybody.
did, but I'm going to tell you, when you lose your center in the middle of the game, it can derail your offense. And that's one of those things that when you have a week to practice with the new guy, it can look dramatically better.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, like, Alabama didn't look great against Auburn either. So we could get a very different looking version of Alabama too. Like if Alabama plays its best game, they won't look anything like they looked in the Iron Bowl. So this is a crapshoot. We are going to wind up on different sides of this. Give me the Dogs to cover and win the SEC title. I said they didn't want to be here, but look, they're here. They're going to try to win the damn game. And there are stakes for both teams here. Alabama, if they win, they are in automatically. Ari, you and I have both said we don't think they would drop out if they lose. But Alabama is number 10 in the current committee rankings. We'll see where they wind up on Tuesday. But the 10 spot is the cut line. They cannot afford to drop at all. They kind of have to win.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Alabama doesn't want to tempt fate here. I think that they should feel very good about their current placement, but they're not. I don't think you should be sure.
Yeah, like Georgia is not going to get knocked out if they lose, but Georgia's playing in Athens the first weekend if they lose, as opposed to having a bye.
Yeah. So, but really excited to watch this game as always, and it feels normal in a world where not a lot of things have felt normal this year.
Yeah, and that's in a week where not a lot of things have felt normal.
Yeah.
You ready for a totally normal matchup? Undefeated Ohio State is in the Big Ten championship game. That sounds pretty normal. Playing undefeated Indiana. I realize they've been on a collision course. We've known Indiana's good all season. It still looks weird to see 12-0 Indiana versus 12-0 Ohio State with a single-digit spread.
Yeah.
Kurt Cignetti is a miracle worker.
Yeah. I don't know where this is going to go. I'm sure the entire public is going to be on Ohio State because it's Ohio State. Like, I think that, like, my general viewpoint on this is if you can get Ohio State by less than 6 points against anybody, that's probably a good bet. And Ohio State has been a covering machine. I think Tyler Shoemaker said that during their 16 game run, since Ohio State lost to Michigan last year, they've won 16 games in a row, and 7 of those opponents have been ranked. Obviously, that happens when 4 of the games in a row are in the playoff. But I think they're 15-1 against the spread during that streak, too. So, I find this intriguing because Indiana is a wagon. They beat the crap out of everybody. They have a win over Oregon on the road. That's a legitimizing win. But is there a part of you in your stomach that is not quite sure if they are equipped to beat Ohio State? Because it's one thing to be a top 10 team in America. It's one thing to be a legitimate program that people accept you as a playoff team without giving you crap because of the logo on your helmet. It is a completely different thing to play Ohio State on an indoor field on a neutral site and beat them. Where are you at with Indiana in terms of your confidence in their ability to do so?
This is not an Indiana thing for me. I'm not sure there's anybody that can beat this Ohio State team. All these teams we've just talked about, I'm not sure any of them can beat Ohio State. So yeah, that's the issue. It's not a dig at Indiana. It's just that I was wrong last year when I said that Ohio State team was the last super team. No. This is probably better than that team.
Yeah.
So Indiana's awesome. It may be that they're running into a team that is just absolutely stacked beyond belief, and there's no other team like that in the country.
Well, here's my
only worry.
And I don't mean to bring this up, but we have to admit it. How much does Ohio State care right now? They should care. They haven't won the Big Ten since 2019.
They're still getting a bye if they lose, right? As long as neither team gets blown out, they're getting a bye.
Yeah,
right?
I think both teams are probably pretty safe with their byes. And at the very least, if they were to fall to 5, that means you're probably playing James Madison or maybe Duke
or Tulane or North Texas. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
And at home, you probably feel pretty good about your chances of winning. Ohio State's best players were banged up against Michigan. I just don't. They're playing, though. They're playing. I don't know how fired up. And it's the hope is that I feel like Indiana probably cares more about this than Ohio State does. I would assure you they do. Assure you. The care factor, I think, is something to consider.
Though I will say, I think Ryan Day is the type of coach who will impress upon his team the importance of when you have a chance to raise a trophy, raise the trophy.
Yeah.
That is a very Ohio State way of thinking. There's a reason Ohio State's been so good for so long. That sort of thing is ingrained in the program.
And I still think people should care about their conference championships. It's a shame that, I think that the college football playoff is great. I love that we have all this discourse about who should be in and who should be out, all that stuff. It's really awesome. It's very engaging. I love the reality television show. I don't like the thought process or the byproduct of the playoff, which is we don't need to care about other trophies because we only care about the one. When there's only one team that's going to be able to hoist that trophy. I still think that winning the SEC should matter a lot to those people.
Well, and you and I just saw what it means to care about a game that maybe the playoff rendered less important. We just watched Ohio State celebrate a win in Ann Arbor in person.
Yeah.
They certainly cared.
But like,
they didn't need that win, but they sure as hell cared.
Nobody cares on the outside, but I still think that Dan Lanning should take pride in his Big Ten championship last year. I think that's
I'm sure he does
on his resume. Like I know that won't be the prevailing thought or memory from Oregon fans in the nation, but the Big Ten is one of the two toughest conferences to play in.
Yeah.
Winning it is an important thing.
Ohio State's a 5.5-point favorite. Indiana is coming in trying to prove a point. This will be a tough ticket. We talked about it in the Game Time ad. Like they're expensive tickets, which means that I would imagine there's a lot of Indiana fans that want to make sure they're at this game. I'm excited to see this. I want to know where Indiana really is, and we're going to find out.
I've been to a ton of Big Ten championship games in my life, obviously covering them. This Indiana team might be the best team Ohio State has faced in this setting.
Yes.
There was no team from the Big Ten West during the heyday of the Big Ten championship that was better than
it was always Penn State or Michigan that Ohio State had beaten during the season that was the toughest challenger they faced in the league.
And then they ended up playing Wisconsin or Northwestern or somebody, and like those teams were good.
Or Iowa.
I'm not saying that they weren't good. I'm just saying this Indiana team boat races people. So that said, there isn't a team in college football right now that I would not lay a touchdown in Ohio State's favor. So I will lay that. I'll lay the 5.5.
Mendoza, Fernando. I get that ABBA song in my head every time. He is the best QB Ohio State will have seen this season.
Sure is, bud. You're going to do it?
I still think Ohio State's going to win by more than 5.5.
Are you going to do it? Anytime you can get a spread where Ohio State can still cover if they go to overtime is a game that it's like.
I know that's what I keep thinking. I was like, yeah, if it's close, it'd still be a 7-point win for Ohio State, even in overtime.
I mean, look, it was the same exact spread of the Alabama-Auburn game on Saturday, and who covered. Mm-hmm. It's the same exact scenario, and it looked like Alabama was going to maybe lose for most of it, and they still covered the spread.
Yeah, no, I'll take Ohio State to cover there, but I am excited. I want that to be an exciting game. I want Indiana to look like Ohio State's equal, because I think if that's true, it means the college football playoff is going to be a lot more fun for everybody.
The question that you have to ask, Andy, and I think that this is an important one, is if Jeremiah Smith isn't feeling his best, or if Carnell Tate tweaks something, and I'm just pointing out like football stuff happens, do you pull them out of this game to make sure that they're 100% healthy? Like, that's the only thing. Like, I wouldn't want to suffer an injury or something to happen to my team in this setting that would jeopardize my ability to compete at the highest.
Well, I think you're saying that like it's purely an Ohio State thing. Yeah. I would say the same thing about Elijah Surratt on the other side.
Exactly.
They know they're in the playoff too.
They're not banged up though coming into it. So,
but he was banged up earlier in the season. He missed a game. So yeah, it is. That's an issue for both teams. I don't think that's unique to Ohio State. So that's your. I'm not going to say your Ohio State bias, because I don't think that's what it is. I think that's our helmet prejudice that has been ingrained in us throughout our lives, thinking that Indiana doesn't belong on the same level, so we couldn't possibly talk about them in the same way. But I think this Indiana team, we can talk about them that way.
Yeah, I think too. Like, I've been a pretty big proponent of supporting Indiana's quest both last year and this year. And I do believe that Indiana is a peer of Ohio State's. I just was viewing it from the standpoint of winning a Big Ten championship in Bloomington would probably mean more.
I would think it would, because it's a rare occurrence.
Yeah.
Speaking of rare occurrences, it is not often that you have a power conference championship game where one of the teams has 5 losses, but that is where we are with Duke versus Virginia in Charlotte for the ACC title. Virginia is only a 3.5-point favorite in spite of beating the Blue Devils by 17 on the road just 2 weeks ago. Ari,
What's with all these weird small spreads?
That line is really weird.
Yeah, what's going on with the weird spreads? It's not like we didn't just see this game like happen.
Right. And so like that game, remember Virginia was cooking, undefeated in ACC play. They lose to Wake Forest 16-9. That was the game Chandler Morris got knocked out. Chandler Morris comes back for this Duke game and plays one of his best games. He's 23 of 35, 316 yards, which is a 9 yards per attempt average, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions. This is going to be a fun game because it's two good quarterbacks, Chandler Morris versus Darian Mensah. But that first one does not give me, like, when I see this line, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm going to take the points, though. One of these lines is weird for a reason. I already ignored it in one of the games.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I don't want to spend all Saturday not rooting for Duke to cover.
Well, you want to root for chaos. That's what you want to root for.
I want Duke to win just because I'm just fascinated by the information that we can extract on how the system works. I think when you're making a product and you put it through all these different like stress tests to make sure that the quality control is high, that's an important aspect of like, how is the college football system? Is it built to not be insanely wrong when you have difficult decisions? Like, is it built to withstand like a chaotic scenario? I don't know, but I want to see it play out so we have precedent, or at least we have experience doing these things, because more weird stuff's going to happen in this world with all these conferences. So
Virginia, the defense played really well in that first meeting. They held Darian Mensah, Duke's quarterback, to his lowest completion percentage of the year. He was 18 of 35. Which is 51.4%. That's by far the lowest of the year for him. 6.1 yards per attempt. If they can frustrate him like that, Virginia's going to win this game. But if Mensah plays, if Mensah and Morris are just dueling here, this is going to be back and forth, and that line will make sense because it might be a last team with the ball situation.
This might wind up being one of the more entertaining games of the weekend. Just of sure, like, entertainment factor,
because Virginia's been one of the most consistent teams in the ACC all year. Duke has been the most wildly inconsistent team in the ACC all year. And so we don't know what Duke's showing up.
What are you going to do?
But, oh my God, Duke is going to be, I do love when the people who root for chaos get one team to root for. Duke is Team Chaos right now.
Like, I wonder if the entire country's on board with this.
Well, certainly they are in a certain part of Virginia.
Yeah.
Okay. Not Charlottesville, but not far away. Harrisonburg. They are big Duke fans, and then they are big Duke enemies if Duke wins.
Yeah.
So James Madison pulling for them. But I think the rest of the country is pulling for chaos. I will say, if you want to pull for a guy who's been through a lot and a team that's been through a lot,
Tony Elliott's your guy.
Tony Elliott got Virginia through a really tough time. It is awesome to see him succeeding like this. It is awesome to see the Cavaliers succeeding like this. It would be cool if they made the college football playoff.
Yeah. I mean, that was real life sadness, tragedy that they got.
For those who don't know, they had a former player who murdered some of their players a few years ago. And it is a horrible thing for anyone to have to deal with. If you're a football program, it's something that you may not come back from, and they have. Tony Elliott did a great job guiding them through, and this team has been really, like, I've doubted Virginia all year, and they just keep playing better.
They do.
Like they annihilated Virginia Tech. And I get Virginia Tech fired their coach. It was the zombie Hokies. But Virginia has been historically awful in that series.
Yeah.
And that game was never in doubt.
I'm with you. And it's like, it's hard to root against him.
Give me Virginia to cover this thing, win, and slip in comfortably as the 11 seed in the college football playoff.
Makes sense.
We'll find out. You're rooting for chaos. I'm rooting for order. That's not the normal way we do this. I usually am the chaos guy, but this could be a fun weekend. We got stakes in every one of these championship games we just talked about. Cannot wait, Ari.
Can't wait either, man. Can't wait to see you in Nashville. We've got a whole week of shows coming up, and then we're going to be
National Signing Day is Wednesday, Ari.
That's
Steve
right.
Furlong, the greatest recruiting reporter of all time, the man who invented the genre, essentially, joins us on Tuesday to help preview National Signing Day. What do all these coaching carousel moves mean for who signs where on Wednesday? Plus, are there any big flips in the works? There's one that was percolating for the last month or so. I don't know if it's still going to happen, but there's a couple that could be pretty seismic. We'll get you ready for National Signing Day, and we'll talk about all the coaching moves because there's still coaching moves to go. There's coordinators to be hired. We're not done. Penn State, as we record this, has not hired a coach. Talk to you tomorrow.